every Monday we're like, oh, there was a lot of sick people last week, like, great. It's kind of weird to your point. Like we don't want to be happy about sick people, but we kind of do. And the mindset right now, we've studied this a little bit. We've all survived a pandemic. So if I have a little sniffle, or if I have I'm Superwoman now. I'll just stay at home. I won't touch anything. I won't talk to anyone. And 3 days later, I'll be busy. I'll be better.
This is the Snarketing Podcast, for marketers, by marketers, talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Worst.
Hi, and welcome to yet another episode of the Snarketing Podcast. I am Matt Worst.
And I am Valerie Vespa.
We are still the same people we've always been. I don't know why we introduce ourselves every single time. If people are clicking on this, they know who we are. It's basically your sister and my mom, right?
I'd like to think that the people in Canada are still listening.
Well, I actually talked to someone in Canada today in an unrelated work call, and he had not heard of it. So I actually asked if his neighbors had heard of it, and they didn't either. So maybe not. But it is the end of February. We have made it 2 whole months. We are 16% of the way through the year. How are your New Year's resolutions holding up?
My gosh, really? Are we getting into this? I don't set resolutions only because I find that I often break all of them. So I instead try and find ways to treat myself a little kinder than the year prior. And I kind of do an overview of, like, in my life what actually is causing me more problems than not. So one of them is social media. I realize that I do this often. I'll either like X out of my app so that I don't look at it as often, because I think I just go straight to it, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. So I want to spend less time in those spaces if I can.
Okay. Well, that's I think that's a noble ambition. Mine wasn't really well defined, but it was just more like improving my time management. And I would say I have done a worse job. So I am trending in the wrong direction. The hard part about being better with time management is that you actually need to carve out time to organize. And it's like one of those feedback loops that you just can't get out of. So I don't know, something drastic needs to happen, but I'm not complaining. I enjoy working extensive hours because I like what I do, but I also have remorse around kind of the work-life balance. But I also
you've been sick.
We have literally someone in my family has been sick every day, at least one person, since December 31st. This is the first week. I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it. This is the first week, though, where, knock on wood, I think we're all in the clear.
I'm so sorry. That's the worst. But, you know what? And maybe that's the moral of the story. Health is the first and foremost. Being healthy.
Well, it is definitely the most important thing, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. But if I don't have my health, I have GoHealth. And today we are welcoming.
Oh, Matt, you're so good.
You set me up for it. You know what? I think after all these years of friendship and almost our 1-year anniversary of concocting this harebrained scheme of a podcast, our chemistry is finally beginning to kick in. But yes, getting back to my amazing transition, we today have a guest who I wasn't expecting to be as incredible. Not that I had any doubts that she wasn't awesome, but like, I was kind of surprised at the direction of the conversation and just how much I liked her. Because, I go in assuming I'm going to just dislike everyone, but I really like her. And
like adoration on a massive level.
Yeah. And it's funny because
New Yorker gone rural, but not really staying true to being New Yorker. Like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah. And I talk enough about healthcare at home anyway with my wife. As a physician. So to talk again about the marketing of it was really interesting. So, and she's going to tell us about her new and more expanded role, but I guess without further ado, let's meet her.
Let's give a snarky greeting to Paula Blomquist, the Chief Experience Officer at GoHealth Urgent Care. She's been a CMO at some of your favorite companies, and now she's transforming healthcare with an innovative approach that I'm sure Matt and Val will ask about. So let's welcome Paula to the show.
Hi, Paula, and welcome to the Snarketing podcast. We've been trying to get you on for a very long time, and leave it to cold and flu season,
That's
which
right.
is probably the busiest time of year, to finally get you. But welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Valerie. It's really great to be here.
And you are our first guest from the great state of Oklahoma. Go Sooners.
Boomer Sooner. Did I say that right?
Yes, I don't know what it means as a New Yorker, but I know that you're supposed to say that. So I feel like maybe I've ingratiated myself with you. And if not you, your husband who played.
Totally,
right?
my husband.
You're saying
Mhm.
played football at the University of Oklahoma.
Yes.
Which means he's probably more athletic and slightly larger than I am. But you are in an exciting role, and it's actually evolved, which we'll talk about. But you have a marketing background, which qualifies you to be a guest here.
Yeah.
And you're working at GoHealth. And I know what GoHealth is as someone who is frequently and chronically, I come down with viruses here and there. But can you tell our listeners who may not know
Sure.
the full breadth of the national reach that the GoHealth network actually encompasses?
Absolutely. So yes, I am with GoHealth Urgent Care, and we have over 270 locations across the country. And our model is quite unique. We partner with the best and the brightest and the most innovative hospital systems in across the U.S., and we become essentially their digital front door. So we manage the operations of urgent care. They manage the clinical side. And together we provide seamless care to our, I call them customers actually. We can get into that why as the marketer, but to patients. So you both, Valerie and Matt, are in New York. So Northwell Health, GoHealth is our urgent care centers. And Matt, if you come in and you have an injury or an illness and you need further care, we'll take care of your urgent care needs immediately, but then we could easily send you over to Northwell if you need further care. And that's really our unique value proposition. So,
and it's interesting because I have obviously been a longtime customer, patient, fan, and friend of the GoHealth network, and have family affiliations with Northwell. But I actually didn't know until recently that I thought GoHealth was an offshoot of Northwell because locally they are so intertwined, but did not realize there was that national
I agree. I
network and you're working with other affiliations.
Yeah.
Is that a challenge, an opportunity, or something it doesn't really matter because how often am I going to be in another state or maybe I will because I travel, right? Is that a marketing priority for you to build that brand independently?
It's a great question. We have 11 hospital systems so we're from Portland to New York. New York happens to be our largest market. And we've been in New York. We'll be 10 years old this year. New York was actually our first joint venture. But we struggle with that a lot. We pick these hospital systems like Northwell, Memorial Hermann, Hartford Healthcare, Novant, right? Henry Ford. These are institutions. And we rely on their clinical care and their reputation to sort of boost the whole partnership. But at the same time, since we run the operations, we run everything on the back end, from everyone who works in the centers to the back end marketing, revenue cycle, IT, things like that. And we are essentially an operational machine, right? So you get operational best in class with clinical care quality. It's quite powerful. So I think from a brand in the B2B world, that's very important that we actually educate other hospital systems or other urgent care companies out there that maybe will come and join us from an acquisition perspective. So we build the brand that way, but I'm hoping from a consumer perspective, when they see our logo out there, that begins to mean something. So, but the joint venture brand is really what we get full force behind.
It's crazy. I had no idea that it's 10 years old. That's wild. I mean, to think that we didn't have, I know, like urgent care is like so critical nowadays, like, and they're, I'm living in Brooklyn and I see them, a lot of competitors and GoHealth as well in the area. And it's just, and they're always busy, sadly enough, but, so there's a great need. But let's kind of rewind a little bit now that we understand what you're currently doing. And I guess we really haven't talked specifically around your role, but we'll get to that. You have, had a long career in marketing, early days at Amex to now obviously the C-suite at GoHealth. So is there anything, like, I know this is kind of a loaded question, but are there any unexpected turns, moments and shifts in your life, memorable stories that like really helped you along the way in terms of this lovely journey that you've had?
Yeah,
outside of
for sure.
geography changes?
Right, exactly. I now know what Oklahoma is. I started doing, once upon a time, I started actually doing actuarial sciences. So I was a math major, always loved the numbers, and went into actuarial. So young person in New York City, making no money, and just essentially estimating when people were going to die. And that was my, thing. And that was no fun. I was no fun at the bars and the parties. So I was like, I'm going to go try, I'm going to get another job. And I went into marketing. And long story short, right before Amex, I was working for a startup called Cross Z, and I tapped into my mathematic background because essentially we were importing algorithms, fractal algorithms from Russia, and we were applying. It was the very beginnings of real intense direct marketing and understanding customer behavior. And we found that fractal algorithms can handle the chaos of consumers. So back when we were doing predictive models, and direct mail and all those things, the fractals allowed to do this analysis on full sets of data versus just samples, and you get a lot more result. Amex became our client. So fast forward, the company was run by a mad scientist, and essentially we thought we'd be millionaires, and we didn't, and it kind of went its way. And Amex hired me, and they wanted to sort of bring this idea of becoming more customer centric, leveraging the assets in the Amex card member database for their merchant businesses. So I was doing marketing for their merchant side of the business. Long story short, we launched our products where we would study the patterns of people who traveled a lot, people who went to restaurants a lot, and we would work with our merchants on targeted marketing. So it was the basis of what we're doing now, although we were doing it back when people started to get a little concerned about privacy. Well, long story short, and this is what changed my career, my boss had taken an interview with USA Today about what we were doing at Amex. And I guess the way he answered the questions led to an article in the USA Today where the headline said, Amex to give away card member information.
No.
And I was standing at the subway stop at 72nd and Broadway, because I lived on the Upper West Side at the time, in my pajamas, because I knew this was going to happen. And I went and I got the paper and I was just bawling. So I made my way downtown, and my boss was nowhere to be found. And I got called up to, at the time, Ken Chenault's office, CEO of Amex, and he's pacing because card members are dropping and dropping and dropping. And I'm like trying to talk about customer, segmentation, and it's all about the customer, and we're doing this, and it's add value, and our merchants love it, and the article isn't true. And he's like, the truth doesn't matter. And I'm like, I'm never going to work again. So they disbanded the whole thing, and they sent me to the ATM department, and I was supposed to go find ATMs. And at the time, we had hired the Peppers and Rogers group to talk about the importance of customer, and you should lead by customer values and needs. And they were going to come in, and Bob Dorff at the time said, why are you so miserable? I was like, well, they just took away all my customer stuff, and now I have to go find ATMs. And he's like, come work for us. And that's when I jumped from Amex to the Peppers and Rogers group, the founders of one-to-one marketing. I helped write their consulting methodology, and we traveled the world, and we talked to companies about how important this thing called the digital age was going to enable companies to have very intimate relationships with their customers, and that was going to be a thing. And that's where
personalization.
I got on my journey. Yeah.
Well, and that sets you up really well. I don't know how much you're still playing with fractals, but in your role now, I mean, maybe that's what AI is based on. I have no idea. You could tell me that's true and I would believe you. But in your role, as you've taken on more responsibility, as you shared with us, you now have a new role.
Yeah,
Is it Chief Experience Officer? Is that
that's right.
what the title? So can you tell us what that encapsulates? It sounds like it would include marketing, but also there's probably some technology components, some data component. Like how many
Yeah,
hats can one woman wear? How do you keep things fresh every day and avoid
yeah.
Groundhog Day?
So, experience. So I've been the chief marketing officer for 3 years, and recently what we did, and all good marketers, here's your advice out there. Marketing is at the table more than ever, and it needs to be, and it needs to influence other parts of the organization. So technology and marketing right now are truly hand in hand. So data and analytics, and then customer service. So that's now what we've bundled. So I have my marketing leads now really understanding what's coming in from a customer experience perspective. We've got the data, and then technology is really what makes it all happen. And what we found was, especially in the healthcare space, consumer demand and expectation now is one of retail, right? I'm a retailer. My whole background is retail. So we're really trying now to infuse customer needs magic, that anticipatory strategy, if you would, to meet customer needs into our technology solution. So that's where we've birthed this. So, and so far it's fun. It doesn't, there's no Groundhog Day now, because I'm really, really trying to productize the customer experience and make sure that we're just looking at healthcare, where the warts are. It's scary. People come in and they're scared and they're not feeling well, and we need to make it as easy as possible. And it's hard right now. And so that's my mission right now. I'm going to try and make healthcare easy.
So, like, are there any proud moments as in your role and then like the, chief marketing officer role, like that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I think, 3 years ago when we went in, it was the middle to end of the pandemic. So really marketing had been shut off for a bit. And my job was to come in and turn, when we turned it back on, sort of reinvent it a little bit. And, if you think about urgent care, you guys tell me, right? What's important? Urgent care near me, paid search, write those checks to Google, optimization, SEO, all those things. So the first thing we did was re-platform the website, make sure it was just SEO optimized, hired a first and ever creative and content team, and, content is going to be key. So we kind of got ourselves ready back then. We created our paid search machine, latest and greatest. Our agencies are, new agency, AI, all of that. But what we had to do was we were having very transactional relationship, and what we did is we expanded the funnel. So we created new channels. We created our story, right? You guys, right? Maybe you guys know, because it's been in New York so long, our whole story of connected care. But we needed to tell that story in our newer markets because they didn't realize our competitive advantage. COVID, every Tom, Dick, and Harry opened an urgent care. And so lots of doors and options out there. So we really needed to pull our story through in a better way, that you're not just going to walk out with a piece of paper. If you need extended care, we're going to help you get that extended care past that initial visit. So I'm really proud of that. We've now have a full funnel, truly optimized. We're using a third-party media mix optimization and really understanding the return for our joint ventures that we get on the marketing, but we're reaching our customers in new and different way. And why I use customer in healthcare, because I am trying to say that people have choice. Customers have choice over patient, right? We take care of thousands and thousands and thousands of patients, but customers have choice, and that's why we need to be ahead of the competition. So, yeah.
Are there differences? I mean, I know that you were at Michael's, which is my mom and my daughter's favorite store, so I spend a lot of time there. But the differences between a retail customer like that, as opposed to the data and privacy requirements around, I mean, you could do a lot
or
with
do you treat
personalized
them the
marketing
same?
based on health data.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so are there things you can't do because of regulations like HIPAA that you could
Absolutely.
do because my mom loves yarn?
Yep.
For
Yeah, yarn is good.
like what's but so like how do you differentiate in terms of what you're able to do
Yeah,
from a marketing and storytelling perspective based on data that you have access to, or maybe that you can't do because
that's
you
right.
know too much?
Yeah, we fly blind in many cases. We really have to adhere to regulations around, pixels and metapixels. And you hear a lot about, in the news, health systems, you know, getting a little bit of trouble for not adhering to the rules. So in some cases, most cases, we're flying blind. So I've had to hire some really good pilots. So we use research, we use our data how and where we can. We go through rounds and rounds of legal. We spend a lot of time with our compliance people, legal teams on both sides to just approve everything that we're doing. So it really, I go back to my Peppers and Rogers days, right? Understand the needs and the values of your customers. Very basic, the needs and the values. And that's how we organize our campaigns. We don't celebrate that you're sick. We try to prevent you from being sick, right? No one wants to be sick. So we lean into the mindset. What's preventative? What advice can we give? And if you are sick, what is the quickest way we can get you in? That's what you care about. So our website now tells you where we have availability, the closest center. Our our track for this year is going to be more about call to action in our marketing is going to be truly connecting potentially right into a virtual visit, connecting to our voice bots so you can get the information that you need. We're using a lot of voice bot technology to get rid of the administrative calls into our centers so the clinical care can get taken care of. We don't want to leave the mom at the CVS with her crying kid in the rain and she can't find her prescription. That needs to be answered. So again, marketing needs with the technology, and that's how we're going to innovate. And I think we're just going to let our story be told by our actions.
Please pardon this brief pause as I read some words from our sponsor. The Snarketing Podcast is brought to you in part by The Lion King on Broadway. Now is the perfect time to experience the majesty of The Lion King. Broadway's awe-inspiring phenomenon is going strong. Great seats available, and you can buy tickets online at thelionking.com. We'll see you at the Minskoff Theater.
So, you kind of answered the question that I had next. So, you've told your story, or you're continuing to tell your story to new markets. And clearly your growth is in developing this experience so that it's turnkey for anyone in any sort of place in time, right? So I guess my question to you is, and now I'm seeing that your role is going from CMO to Chief Experience Officer. So I think all of these things sort of are very, very much are clear that you're heading in this direction of using marketing and technology to kind of provide the real growth for this organization. So are you embedded with product? Are you vetting, these chatbot companies? How involved do you get in that whole process of transformation?
Yeah, we've brought in some new talent. We are definitely looking at new technologies. We're looking at I don't know if I actually talk about the brands that we're using or the companies, or I could just say we are invested in customer-centric technology.
We have no legal department, so you tell us what you're capable of doing.
I have a legal department.
This is on you.
Yeah. No, I know, for example, we've jumped on the Salesforce bandwagon. A lot of our health systems are also really trying to understand the patient experience end to end and make it easier, obviously to navigate into business. So we have jumped on the Salesforce, and in that we will not only run our marketing campaigns, but we have our voice platform now on Salesforce. There are other solutions for some of our B2B customers. We also do, have B2B relationships where we'll work with employers on being their urgent care of choice and making it easy for things like workman's compensation to be facilitated. So we're also looking at solutions to make that more efficient for employers, so their employers could be well faster from a workman's comp perspective. We're looking at advancing our tech platform. We've expanded into behavioral health, transitional primary care. So all of these need slight variation on our tech stack right now. Primary care right now is a big need out there because in some cases it's months before you can get into your primary care. So we've been partnering with our hospital systems to be the backup. We call it transitional primary care. Come in and see us, and then in the interim for some transitional care, and then we'll get you, make sure you can get into your primary care physician at the hospital system. Behavioral health is a big demand right now, so we offer that in some of our markets. So again, it's customer needs, and then it's making sure our tech stack can facilitate those types of extended services.
That all makes sense. And I come from a background with brands where I'm thinking a lot about engagement and lifetime loyalty value and spending just my cycles and energy thinking about the difference between like push and pull.
Yeah.
And in your role, I mean, there will always be sick people, unfortunately, but you kind of have like you don't have to worry about your customer base at that point, but you want to make sure that you are striking that balance between persuasive and sensitive marketing, as you were talking about, right?
That's
preventative versus treatment.
That's right.
In your outbound messaging that you create, is that a balance that you and agency partners think a lot about and talk a lot about, or is it really like the decision's already been made, you have your brand strategy, now it's just a matter of implementing it?
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. There's definitely seasonal messaging that we lean into, right? Every Monday we're like, there was a lot of sick people last week, like, great. It's kind of weird, to your point, like we don't want to be happy about sick people, but we kind of do. And the mindset right now, we've studied this a little bit. We've all survived a pandemic. So if I have a little sniffle, or if I have I'm Superwoman now, I'll just stay at home. I won't touch anything. I won't talk to anyone. And 3 days later, I'll be busy. I'll be better. So we've done some campaigns where we're really trying to get the idea out there. It's like, you really should figure out what it is. We've got some very fun stuff out there right now where, WebMD and the Google, and it's panicking people, and, is it this or is it that? So I think what we're trying to do is to, even though everyone's heroic right now and you should stay at home, or you could stay at home and take care of yourself, in some cases you really do need to it's a little dangerous. So we don't want to instill fear, but we want to incent you, get off your couch. You really do need to figure it out. And we were trying to do that in new and different ways. You should be in our brainstorm when we talk about, STDs and things like that. That's another thing that.
I don't know if you're looking at me or Valerie when you say that.
If
you want to talk about, okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So again,
maybe
it's we balance. We use a little humor that's in our brand guideline. It's a little bit of humor, but not ridiculous. But keep it light and just keep it real. And so.
I think inspiring a little bit of healthy paranoia. I say healthy to modify paranoia is not a bad thing, right? I was in one of your facilities a couple of weeks ago. I had the flu. I knew I had the flu, but I was getting ready to go to a big trip, and I was worried that I might get pneumonia. So it's a little bit of fear, but it's also a little bit of preventative medicine, and also just a little bit of just reassurance and spending time with an actual trained professional, so that I can bring my knowledge to bear and also allay any concerns when I'm coughing all over the place that I'm not actually contagious anymore, guys.
Yeah. Go on our social media channels this week. You'll see a fun thing about, it's an allergy. It's coughing in a car, and there's a dog, and he's got
everyone thinks they're an expert.
Strange face on.
I love it. So marketing has changed a lot over the course of our careers. And is there a time you can recall where you had to pivot or risk, falling behind? Crisis management insights, anything that you can kind of share as far as fun stories or experiences?
I can tap into Michael's world for that one. I joined them in Probably, don't tell anyone. Let's not tell anyone. I think that was one of my favorite. It was my first CMO job. I had been at an Omnicom agency. I was on the agency side for a while, right? I learned marketing at, I was at Limited Brands. Obviously, I was at Amex. These are just great marketing places to learn. Then I went on the agency side for a while and learned that. And then I got my first gig as CMO at Michaels. And when I got there, Bain and Blackstone at the time owned the company, and both entities were like, here's your list of things to do. And at the time, I think it was close to 80% of the budget was spent on the paper version of the Sunday Circular.
Wow.
And
like the inserts, right?
The inserts.
Yeah.
The holy grail, right? It was every Thursday at 9:30 for 2 hours, we would sit with the head merchant and myself and a table full of merchants, and we planned that ad, and it was the Bible. And I knew we were running out of newspapers, we were running out of circulation, and if we didn't pivot fast, we were dead. So we started our journey. It was a series of very complicated, again, the math side of me. It was very complicated, test and learn, outside entities helping us try to understand where we could maximize the paper and where we had to subsidize with a digital version or other channels. We launched something called a Facebook page. We did it on Mother's Day, and we launched Facebook for Michaels with a contest, show your love for your mother, and through crafting. And we actually did it with an agency who said they knew how to do a contest at the time, and we had so much engagement from our customers that we took it down. Like, we broke Facebook and we got in trouble, and I'm like, I'm going to lose my job. But anyway, we got through it. And social is the fabric of crafting, right? It was all about the knitting circle. So we were ripe, and we had no social media. So we had the circular. So we launched that. We found this little company called Pinterest. We started to do some work with Pinterest, and from the very beginning, we brought offline and online together. We had Pinterest projects on the end caps, right? We began to really talk that digital was not going to kill us. So we embedded that into the stores. And then over time, we just learned where, the paper was still optimized and working, and we had some inventory, right? We had paper still being produced. And then we learned where digital and things like email, we had 0 email addresses. When I left, I think we had about 14 or 15 million email addresses. And it, we just used the data, and we didn't hurt sales, and the merchants learned that, okay, we can give up our circular. And by the time I left 5 years later, we had a fully measurable multi-channel approach, very emotional, lots of great content. We did things like we pimped out an 18-wheeler and turned it into a craft room, and we toured the country, and we went to festivals, and we were able to take a brand, and instead of just flinging out that circular, very transactional, what's on sale, we actually began to go where our customers were, where they were being creative, where they were self-expressing and becoming part of that. So I'm so proud of that. But it was stressful because every day we lost circulation.
Which in healthcare is also a problem. So is there now a technology? I mean, Pinterest end caps, you're speaking my language. But when it comes to healthcare marketing, or platforms, technologies, is there something that you're excited about? Something you think is overrated, underrated, well rated?
Yeah, I think, to be 100% transparent, we're still trying to figure out AI, right? We know on the clinical side that what we really need to do is to use technology, but keep the human part in there. So we're really looking for any technology right now, and we're testing a few AI solutions to help with things like scribing. So we can keep our, right? And again, our brand is that provider. So however we can use technology to,
Yeah, even if it's on the back end, right? It
yeah,
doesn't have to be a marketing experience, but
that's
it
right.
improves the customer experience because the provider in the room is actually listening as opposed to worried about
That's right.
whether there's a typo in the note. Like,
That's right.
that's incredible.
So I think that's where we're going. I think on the marketing side, we really, from a content perspective, I think anything that makes us generate content more efficiently. I think we're going to be looking to use a lot of micro influencers in our markets. I want to really personify the brand a little bit more. And, we're kind of a brand, but we're an agency, right? We have 11 systems and that's growing. So we need to find technology, very basic stuff on the marketing side, everything from, marketing resource management to the role AI is going to play in creative and copy. So that this is the year that we really do need to understand how we truly can scale and what technologies. We put some basic tools in place for sure to manage, in one given, time, we can have hundreds of campaigns and stuff going on across 11 systems. So I think
Really
we're
interesting.
struggling to, like, we're like an agent, like the same technologies the agencies are looking for, we'll be looking to. So
Hmm.
So you've clearly had highs and lows through, like many people in their careers, and
mhm.
the Amex situation to finding a wonderful job after that, and then Michael's probably coming in after consultants have done a whole um, project on how this company needs to change, and then you having to execute on that must be a bit nerve-wracking, but exciting. So, like, what do you think, what sort of character traits do you think, like, for any new sort of marketing person who's considering getting into C-level, like, what do you think are some of the traits that are kind of have helped you through the good and the bad?
Mm-hmm. I think you have to have a noble purpose. At Michael's, we were helping people self-express. In many cases, they couldn't. This is how they only communicated. So your art and your craft, and I felt like we were noble in that. At iMart, we were helping people see, and I got behind that. And obviously what we're doing at GoHealth. So I feel like it's noble purpose. I think you have to really believe that your customers deserve the best. So everything that you put out there needs to be authentic and credible, truthful. I believe that. I think curiosity, I look for that. Leonardo da Vinci, there's a great, workbook and all the Da Vinci kind of workshops and stuff. I've done that with teams. I think if you lose your curiosity, I look for that in when I'm hiring people. I think I encourage my teams to build credibility. So then when you want to do the crazy things like pimp out a 18 wheeler or, do whatever, you have that credibility, and then you can test things and you can fail huge, but you really want to learn from it. And I think that's how I've been able to get some of the trust that I have. I've worked with a lot of private equity. I think this is my third or fourth stint with a company owned by private equity. There's a lot of expectation.
Mhm.
Inspiration. My leadership team right now in IT, we're reading Trust and Inspire, and
Nice.
and I believe in that. So yeah, I think, and marketers, the tech is going to take over a lot of our jobs, and I think that's why this experience officer for me is so important. So I think you have to always be curious about what's going on in the rest of the company. At iMart, I was the chief marketing officer. I became the chief merchant because the product needed to become much bigger part of the marketing conversation. So I think you need to seek out and become experts and at least knowledgeable and influence cross company. And I look for people to do that, like I all the time. So
Yeah.
Do you find, as someone who seems to be as insatiably curious as we are, and many of our listeners likely are,
yeah.
that there's this, I mean, I almost feel like I'm constantly catching up to and need to read every newsletter and learn about every technology. Do you feel that when you wake up in the morning that you're like you have that compelling urgency, or are you able to disconnect at times? I know you live on a ranch and you have um,
Mm-hmm. Donkeys.
you work with the earth maybe in ways that I don't fully understand. And
Yeah.
maybe there are AI tools for that too. But do you find that you're able to achieve that balance between insatiable curiosity, but also the need to disconnect and make sure your crops are
Yeah,
well tended?
I do. I feel like I've I've worked 7 days a week, but I don't mind that. Like I don't work. Like on the weekends, I do try and unplug, and I love walking around. I've got dogs. I've got my donkeys. It's very crazy. I don't know. It's
Are they working animals or are they pets? Like, are they allowed in
no.
the house?
Well,
No.
no,
Okay.
no. They stay outside. The dogs come in the house,
Okay.
but the donkeys stay outside.
Okay.
They keep away the hogs.
I don't know where you draw the line. So I was curious. That's why I asked. Okay.
But I pressure myself. Like on my desk right now, there's like 5 books I've started, like, and I don't finish them, and I can't get stressed out by that, and I just have to, there's certain healthcare things. I love Becker's, and I feel like they just curate a lot of content, and then from that, so that I try to find some curated stuff, and then I can bridge from there. And I just can't be mad at myself if I don't finish something. Like I used to get very mad at myself. Like I got to finish this book and I got to go read this. I got to listen to this podcast. And now I'm just really finding I'm relying more on curated sites and friends, book clubs. I'm starting a book club with my customer service team. I'm starting a book club with IT that's forcing us to kind of talk about things. Learning and development is very important for me. So I'm going to launch probably an AI learning and development work team in my marketing team this year, just so we can really understand, because before healthcare can do AI right, it's governance, and we have to, there's too many laws that we have to adhere to and things like that. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to learn through my teams. I'm going to assign it to them.
Perfect.
Well, that's delegated learning is how the best information gets filtered up.
Exactly.
Well, that's exciting. Val, should we go to our lightning round?
I love the lightning round. I think it's time.
Oh my God.
Okay. So there's no pressure here, Paula. There's no right or wrong answers.
I'm so pressured.
No. This is supposed to be fun. And full disclosure, we did not prepare you with any of these questions.
My gosh.
So that's what makes it more enjoyable. But if at any point you want us to skip, you can just say pass. And we may or may not do that.
Okay.
So we'll get started. We'll put a fake clock on the board here and get started. So for me, as both a pop culture enthusiast, but also someone who is married to a healthcare professional, we watch and consume a lot of medical TV shows, right? Both drama and comedy. There have been some great ones. ER, Grey's Anatomy, House Scrubs. How long before we see a show that takes place in an urgent care facility? And will it be a sitcom or a drama?
I would love that, and I think it would be a sitcom.
Your leadership style, clearly, we've talked a lot about in terms of how you motivate, empower, learn from, and inspire your people. Is there one word that you could use to describe your leadership style?
I think I'm optimistic and fair. It's 2 words.
Nice.
Okay.
Very optimistic about
favorite. I love it. Favorite city for a conference?
New York.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I think that's a great answer, but we get so. I don't know. It's like unexciting when it's here.
Yeah.
Because it's like we have to go home at night.
Yeah. I do love.
Right?
I guilty pleasure. I do love Vegas.
It is fun. It is
right.
Fun.
It's like Disneyland. Sometimes.
It is.
Yeah, Vegas is having a year between Formula One, between the Super Bowl, CES every year. There's a lot happening.
A lot of optical. I used to go there every year for iMart. So Vegas is fun too.
If you were putting your marketing hat on for a sec, if you're creating or pitching an ad campaign like right now for your brand and any celebrity can be in it, who would it be?
Oh, I don't know his name, but I would put him in there. Who's the guy that's just winning all the awards for the Bear?
For the Bear. Oh, Jeremy Allen White.
For Jeremy.
Yeah.
So
I would pick him.
Yeah.
Well,
someone just beat you to the punch that the Calvin Klein ads.
I know.
Got
I would
a
copy.
lot of buzz and attention.
No, but I mean, he's got those eyes. I think they're, he would just come in and calm everyone down when they come in if they're not feeling well and they're scared.
Well, or the heart palpitations that he causes may inspire
Right. Well,
people
we've got
to have to
EKGs.
go to urgent care. Is it right?
You
Is it emotional or is it physical? I don't
you
know.
should totally that would be hysterical. Or he like walks into the urgent care in his underwear and he's coughing or something. I mean, that could be so funny. Anyway,
that.
sorry.
But probably expensive, by the way. Probably expensive.
Probably.
So yeah, we
Especially
said budget
after,
unlimited.
Especially after the week of awards.
So Jeremy Allen White. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
he's gone way
point.
up.
Okay.
He's
So,
gone
what
way
is
up.
your go-to
Okay.
app outside of email or Google or whatever search engines you're using these days? Go-to app.
Oh, I've been using a lot of, it's really bad. I use like the basics, but I've been sending a lot of food to my friends and family through Uber Eats, which I absolutely love. And it's because I live, the closest store to me is like a half an hour away. So I'm learning that I need to use services like that a lot more. And I'm just, because I'm a caregiver. So I'm sending lots of soups and treats and things. I recognize all my team's birthdays, so I deliver stuff to them. So I'm in that app a lot.
Oh, I love
Okay.
that.
We will have to send you our address as well, just to. No.
Sure.
Okay. And Valerie, why don't you ask the last question?
What's one medical myth you wish you could bust with a marketing campaign?
I don't even know. What is
STD related, since we were talking about that earlier. I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah. We have to stay away. We'll have to stay away from that. I should know this, but I am so drawing a blank.
Okay.
I have to go to my
have a
Italian grandma,
alternate-
like
Yeah.
Well, like put it that all of them, you're not gonna you can swallow gum and you're gonna be okay. Like that kind of stuff.
Wait, is that true? You are okay? I thought it lives in your stomach for 25 years.
You actually can swim, after you eat. You're not going to die, that kind of stuff. Like all the kids stuff.
You don't need to change your shirt immediately after sweating. Yeah. You won't catch a cold.
You don't need to do that. You don't need to do any of that. So
I think that's something that AI can probably help with. And
Absolutely.
if anyone is going to tackle and solve those challenges to make us better educated and healthier, I think it's going to be you. And I'm excited that you are taking on this expansive role. But I know Valerie and I are grateful that you were able to spend some time with us.
This was lovely.
Help educate our audiences on just your background, but also where you're taking us next. So thank you, Paula, for this.
Thank you both. It was really
fun. We
fun.
look forward to seeing you in an urgent care soon. Wait, do we?
No.
I don't know. Is that how we end things?
Hope to see you in New York soon.
There you go.
That's better. All right. Thanks again.
Thank you. And thank you for being customers.
Oh, absolutely.
And fans. We are fans of you and your products. Thank you.
We are.
Yes, thanks for joining us, Paula. To hear you talk about AI truly warms my heart. Or it would, if I had one. But I'm all brain, with a little charm mixed in. Thanks for making it to the end with us, and see you next time.